guys know what I love? Tumblr. I really like Tumblr. I mean, not just because it gives me my daily fix of useless stuff I really don't need to waste my time looking at, but because it is such a free website. I mean, it is great. It basically, so long as you don't do anything illegal, then you're okay. You know, as long as you don't post any content of like you brutally murdering somebody, they'll pretty much let your blog go ahead and do whatever the heck it wants. You know, and that's what's great about Tumblr. But Tumblr is going to add a new content policy. I'm gonna update it with a new and, to me, interesting rule. Now, like I said, as long as you weren't breaking the law, you're pretty much free to do anything. But now, Tumblr's decided, fuck that shit. And they're going to pass a content policy that says they're going to delete, and will of course not permit, any self-harm blogs. Basically, any blog that advocates anorexia, bulimia, being a pro-ana, cutting yourself, mutilating yourself, for suicide. Now, the first thought that enters a lot of people's brains, because, we don't tend to, think about some of us don't think about stuff until we've, slept on the idea for a while. So the first thing that most people think is, oh, well, that's good. Cutting yourself's bad. I mean, you get scars everywhere and you're bleeding, so it's very unhealthy. And anorexia is really bad, and that can lead to death. And, of course, suicide leads to death. And, that's all fine and good, because, personally, I don't think that cutting or anorexia are good ideas. But, you see, herein lies the thing. That's my opinion. That's my morality. And my morality should not influence anybody else. I mean, I guess I'd like it if you stopped cutting, but if you were a cutter and you saw me saying, I think cutting's bad, honestly, don't go, oh, well, this YouTube guy says that cutting's bad, so obviously I should listen to him. No, be an individual. Do whatever you want. I mean, I think it'd be a little more intelligent not to cut yourself, but then again, some people find comfort in cutting themselves. Some people find it as a way of release from the horrors of everyday life. And whatever, to each their own. But Tumblr's not having of it. I have the actual policy right here, and I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys, just so that I can show you why I think this is wrong, and why I think they should not make this part of their content policy. Excuse me, I just had some microwavable pizzas. Alright, quote. One of the great things about Tumblr is that people use it for just about every conceivable kind of expression. People being people, though, that means that Tumblr can sometimes get used for things that are just wrong. We are deeply committed to supporting and defending our users' freedom of speech, but we do draw some limits. As a company, we've decided that some specific kinds of content aren't welcome on Tumblr. For example, we prohibit spam and identity theft. Our content policy has not, until now, prohibited blogs that actively promote self-harm. These typically take the form of blogs that glorify or promote anorexia, bulimia, and other eating disorders, self-mutilation, or suicide. These are messages and points of view that we strongly oppose and don't want to be hosting. The question for us has been whether it's better to A, prohibit them as a statement against the very idea of self-harm that they are advancing, or B, permit them to stay up, accompanied by a public service warning that directs readers to helplines run by organizations like the National Eating Disorders Association. We are planning to post a new revised content policy in the very near future, and we'd like to ask for input from the Tumblr community on this issue. Here's what we think the right answer is. So, here's what the new content policy is. This is what Tumblr thinks is correct for us. Quote, number 1. Implement a new policy against pro-self-harm blogs. Here's the draft language we are planning to add to our content policy. Active promotion of self-harm. Don't post content that actively promotes or glorifies the self-injury or self-harm. This includes content that urges or encourages readers to cut or mutilate themselves, embrace anorexia, bulimia, or other eating disorders, or commit suicide rather than, e.g., seek counseling or treatment for depression or other disorders. Online dialogue about these acts and conditions is incredibly important. This prohibition is intended to reach only those blogs that cross the line into active promotion or glorification. For example, joking that you need to starve yourself after Thanksgiving, or that you wanted to kill yourself after the humiliating date is fine, but recommending techniques for self-starvation or self-mutilation is not. We aim to begin implementing this policy next week. Of course, we will allow any affected blogs a grace period in order to edit or download their content. Part 2. Start showing PSAs on search results for related keywords. In addition, we plan to start posting public service announcement style language whenever users search for tags that typically go along with pro-self-harm blogs. For example, when a user searches for tags like anorexia, anorexic, bulimia, bulimic, thinspiration, thinspo, pro-ana, purge, purging, etc., we would show PSA language like, eating disorders can cause serious health problems, and at the most severe, can be life-threatening. Please contact insert research organization here, at insert helpline number here, or insert website here. Okay, that's the important stuff. Everything else was just, you can email us here to talk about it. Okay, Tumblr. Now, I originally thought that they were mostly doing this because I was worried that Tumblr was going to start coming under fire from, teenagers looking at cutting blogs and their parents finding out, their parents trying to sue Tumblr for it. But then I knew that that's clearly not the answer because this is not mentioned at all in this speech. Do you want to know what is mentioned in their speech? Tumblr doesn't like it. Tumblr doesn't like cutting. Okay. That's fine. You don't have to like it. None of the cutters said you had to like it. But isn't, removing their freedom to post content about it because you don't like it a bit strong? I mean, imagine if the leader of Tumblr, the owner of Tumblr, was an incredibly conservative Christian and therefore deleted all atheist blogs. Would you people have a different reaction? Probably. You probably would. You'd say, hey, that's our freedom of religion. Well, I think these people have all the freedom of speech to be able to make a blog about embracing anorexia. I mean, whether you like it or not. And I know it's like Tumblr can kind of control whatever goes up there. And whatever, but hasn't one of the great things about Tumblr been the fact that you could talk about whatever you wanted and they wouldn't even interfere at all? It was almost completely private from them, even though it obviously wasn't, since they now know there's like so many self-harm blogs, which I've actually never seen because I've never followed any. I actually did follow a Tumblr once that had a picture of a girl cutting herself, but that's not relevant. The point is that I think this interferes with our freedom on Tumblr, freedom of speech, as cutting yourself, self-mutilation, is not illegal. So why should you guys put a ban on it? And the PSA language thing, come on, really? Really? If somebody wants to access a blog about cutting, you're going to have it redirect them to some helpline? No, just don't do that, because that's more annoying and it's going to be completely ineffective. I mean, who, with an experience of cutting themselves, and gets a kick out of cutting themselves and wants to see other people cutting themselves, who's going to be redirected to a hotline and is actually going to sit through it? I don't know. Maybe some people would. I wouldn't if I were a cutter. I'd probably say, fuck this, and then back. But I think that I'd rather they did that than completely shut down people's freedoms. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. Take it for what you will. Just know that I'm not saying that cutting yourself and embracing anorexia is good for you or anything. I'm not. Suicide is so obviously not good for you. It involves killing yourself, which is probably the last thing I call good for you. But whatever, to each their own. That's my personal point of view. Live free and don't let Tumblr tell you that what you're doing is wrong, because that's up to you. Be your own person, for heaven's sakes. I better stop rambling now or else this video will go on for too long.